Due to Bayer's acquisition of Monsanto, a formidable agribusiness conglomerate with considerable influence over the world's food supply has been established. Concerns regarding the financial strains on farmers, biodiversity loss, and the long-term viability of food production have been brought up by this concentration of power. Here's a closer look at how Bayer-Monsanto's influence reaches far and wide in the agricultural sector. Number 7. Dominance in seed markets. In order to influence agricultural production worldwide, Bayer-Monsanto holds a sizable share of the global seed market. With an emphasis on creating crops that are resistant to particular pests and herbicides, Monsanto was a pioneer in the commercialization of genetically engineered seeds. These genetically modified crops, like Bt corn and Roundup-ready soybeans, helped farmers boost yields and lessen their dependency on labor-intensive farming practices. This dominance grew after Bayer acquired Monsanto, giving it a near monopolistic grip on the world's seed supply. In the U.S. alone, approximately 90% of corn and soybean crops are genetically modified. This dominance is not just limited to the U.S., as Monsanto has strategically positioned itself in markets across South America, Africa, and parts of Asia. By controlling the patents for these genetically modified seeds, Bayer-Monsanto has essentially controlled the crops farmed in vast swaths of the world, making it practically impossible for other businesses to compete on an equal basis. Additionally, in many areas, these genetically modified crops are the only ones available to a farmer, which restricts biodiversity and hinders the advancement of non-GMO or alternative farming methods. Number 6. Control over agrochemicals. By combining two significant agrochemical companies, Bayer and Monsanto were able to strengthen their hold on the market for agricultural chemicals. The most popular herbicide in the world, Roundup, developed into a key component of Monsanto's commercial strategy. Monsanto's genetically modified Roundup-ready crops, which are designed to resist the herbicide's harmful effects, are specifically intended to be used with Roundup. Due to this seed chemical synergy, farmers were forced to purchase both chemicals and seeds together rather than using them separately. In addition to herbicides like Roundup, Bayer's chemical portfolio also consists of insects, fungicides, and plant growth regulators. There is also a considerable interdependency between Bayer-Monsanto's seeds and chemicals because the firm creates a wide variety of proprietary formulations that operate with their seed varieties. Farmers are further locked into a loop of reliance on Bayer-Monsanto's goods by this interconnected system, which compels them to buy both inputs, which are frequently unaffordable. By influencing regulatory agencies and retaliating against scientific research that casts doubt on the safety of glyphosate Roundup, the firm has also been able to stifle or postpone regulatory attempts to restrict its use in spite of growing evidence that it poses health and environmental hazards. Number 5. Patent protection and legal control. With its broad portfolio of patents, Bayer-Monsanto's intellectual property strategy is one of the most effective means of controlling the world's food supply. Monsanto and now Bayer have established a system in which farmers are unable to preserve, trade, or replant seeds without risk of legal repercussions by patenting genetically engineered crops. Generally, farmers are not allowed to use seeds from a previous crop and must buy new seeds each year. When it comes to Monsanto's patented genetically modified organisms, this long-standing and sustainable farming technique known as seed saving is now prohibited. This is enforced through the company's technology agreements, which farmers must sign in order to purchase seeds. Farmers are essentially forced to purchase new seeds every planting season, since these agreements forbid replanting harvested seeds. Additionally, even in situations when contamination from neighboring GM crops may have unintentionally spread, Monsanto has a history of vigorously pursuing legal action against farmers who are found to have broken these patents. Due to the persistent fear of litigation brought about by this legal tactic, many small or independent farmers are unable to avoid buying new seeds every season for financial reasons. Bayer Monsanto is one of the most influential corporations in agriculture as a result of its legal influence over farming techniques. Number 4. Global monopoly on GMOs. Due to its almost complete dominance of the GMO business, Bayer Monsanto has been able to influence modern agriculture globally. Monsanto was at the vanguard of the biotech revolution thanks to its early investments in genetically modified organisms. Their hallmark genetically modified goods like Roundup-ready soybeans and Bt corn are very appealing to large-scale industrial farmers because they are genetically modified to either create their own insecticides or tolerate particular herbicides. Bayer further solidified its position as the leading force in the development of genetically modified crops with the acquisition of Monsanto. Approximately 70 to 80% of the global market for genetically modified seeds is currently controlled by Bayer Monsanto. Because of this monopoly, they are able to control which genetically modified crops farmers can purchase and, consequently, which crops will be the mainstays of agriculture worldwide. Beyond simply commodities like maize and soybeans, the firm now controls GMOs in other important food crops like canola, cotton, and wheat. Due to this monopolistic dominance, a small group of corporations, led by Bayer Monsanto, have complete control over the types of crops that are grown worldwide, severely restricting competition, lowering biodiversity, and impeding the introduction of non-GMO substitutes in numerous markets. Number 3. Influence over government policy and regulations. By influencing government policy regarding agricultural laws and lobbying, Bayer Monsanto has long held significant political power. The company has successfully influenced laws and regulatory procedures that support its business model by spending millions of dollars on lobbying and political campaigns. Approval of genetically modified organisms is one of the main areas where Bayer Monsanto has impacted policy. In order to facilitate the introduction of new products to the market, they have played a significant role in advocating for the deregulation and expediting of new biotech crops. For instance, Monsanto has been able to market its goods with fewer environmental or health checks in the United States thanks to its lobbying activities, which have significantly lowered the strictness of GMO approval procedures. Additionally, out of concern that such transparency would undermine consumer trust in genetically modified foods, Bayer Monsanto has pushed hard against GMO labeling regulations. Bayer Monsanto has been able to influence agricultural policies around the world by investing substantially in lobbying and hiring former government officials, frequently with little consideration for public health or environmental concerns. This impact also extends to the regulation of pesticides, where the business has fought to keep substances like glyphosate on the market, in spite of growing scientific evidence of their possible dangers. Bayer Monsanto is able to avoid or postpone regulatory actions that could curtail their market domination because of their intensive lobbying operations. Number 2. Monopolizing the supply chain. Bayer Monsanto's integration across the agricultural supply chain is one of the most powerful ways it controls food production. Beyond seeds and chemicals, the company has expanded into digital farming technology and precision agriculture. With Bayer's existing expertise in digital platforms and Monsanto's recent investments in data analytics, the company now controls not just the seeds and chemicals used in farming, but also the data that drives farming decisions. Digital tools like Field View, which allows farmers to track field conditions and make real-time decisions about planting, irrigation, and pest management, are increasingly being used by farmers in conjunction with Bayer Monsanto's seed and chemical products. By collecting vast amounts of data about crop performance, weather patterns, soil conditions, and more, Bayer Monsanto is able to offer tailored advice and inputs to farmers, locking them further into the company's ecosystem. Furthermore, Bayer Monsanto has expanded its role as a provider of fertilizers, machinery, and other essential farming tools. This vertical integration across multiple areas of the agricultural supply chain gives Bayer Monsanto an unparalleled level of control over the way crops are grown, making it difficult for farmers to source inputs from alternative suppliers. This monopoly-like control over the entire farming ecosystem strengthens their influence and makes it increasingly difficult for small-scale or independent producers to compete, driving further consolidation in the agriculture industry. Number 1. Economic pressure on farmers. Bayer Monsanto puts farmers under tremendous financial strain. Farmers are severely impacted financially by the company's frequently unaffordable products, particularly genetically engineered seeds and related pesticides. Many farmers experience continuous financial strain because GM seeds are frequently far more expensive than conventional seeds, and because they must be purchased annually. Because pesticides and herbicides are costly and required to maintain crop yields, their use also increases the financial burden. For farmers in developing countries, where access to financing is often limited, these high costs can make it nearly impossible to stay profitable without relying on Bayer Monsanto products. Furthermore, farmers are forced into a continuous loop of buying seeds every season due to Bayer Monsanto's patent enforcement tactics, which prohibit them from conserving seeds from one harvest to plant the next. Due to this cycle, many farmers find themselves torn between the necessity of purchasing pricey new seeds and their inability to avoid the ongoing financial strain of purchasing the company's product line. While larger industrial farms frequently end up being the main beneficiaries of the Bayer Monsanto model, which drives consolidation in the agricultural sector, small-scale and family-owned farms may face bankruptcy as a result of these economic constraints. The hegemony of Bayer Monsanto over the world's food supply is further cemented by this dynamic, which not only restricts farmers' autonomy, but also concentrates global food production in the hands of a small number of powerful businesses. In conclusion, Bayer Monsanto has the ability to influence global agriculture due to its extensive control over seeds, agrochemicals, patents, and regulations. Thanks for watching our video, and don't forget to subscribe.